I'm going to Kansas City. If I could, I could, I could, I could. I'm going to Kansas City.
Welcome everybody to another episode of Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. My name is Emmanuel Cleaver III.
And I'm Emil Cleaver the First.
Oh, come on, man. Join us every Tuesday. We drop a new episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. Check us out most places you get your podcast. So this is the day after the King celebration, and we have a lot to talk about. I want to start with President Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
He was found. He found some classified documents in his Delaware home. It was found by.
Man. Didn't this happen to another president?
So Donald Trump did the same thing. But here's the difference. So.
You one of those people.
No. There's a little difference.
Okay.
The difference is, okay, let me tell you the difference.
I know the difference, but go ahead and say it.
Okay, the difference is that his attorney Joe Biden's attorney found the papers and turned them over to the DOJ, Department of Justice, as opposed to the home being raided. That's the difference. Now, more documents were found after the attorney found that initial one. But the fact still remains, just like Donald Trump, he had some classified documents at the crib. You know who hasn't been caught with classified documents?
The black president?
The only black president. No classified documents. And Joe Biden, well, he was the vice president. Yeah. So here's
while it was going on with Trump, he knew that he had something.
Did he? Well, they said he found it like they didn't know it was there.
Oh, okay. So how did it get there?
It was a mistake. It was an accident.
So all that stuff, he was just walking by it in his garage, and it was like, man.
It was his attorney. I guess the attorney, they had boxes of papers. I don't know all the details, but the attorney found it. Mm-hmm. So it was I guess going over.
At his house, right?
It was at his crib.
Well, why were they there?
Hey, he said it was an accident. I'm not justifying. I'm just saying he had it. Yeah. And so I was looking at NBC and ABC, reading their stuff online, and they were saying Democrats are frustrated over his response, that it was a mistake, it was unintentional, and blah, blah, blah. Of course, Republicans are saying he needs to be killed immediately. Even
such hypocrites.
But they're saying it's a double standard and hypocrisy.
Right, but
the same thing didn't happen.
They didn't think that they didn't want anything to happen to Trump, but now all of a sudden they see, you guys were right. It is wrong to do this.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Either way, however they try to squirm out of it, I mean, they're saying that he ought to have the same kind of scrutiny as Donald Trump, but. Here's the question.
Not as much as Donald Trump, because they had to forcibly take his. But he needs to step down.
I'm just saying. That's pretty rough. I'm just saying that the Republicans are saying that he ought to have the same treatment as Donald Trump. But the question then, begs to be asked: what about his reelection?
Nah.
So he's been told that because he was going to announce his run. Sometime soon. It was coming up. That was reports that Joe Biden any day is going to announce his reelection campaign. But now, what do you think he ought to do?
He needs to announce his resignation.
Okay. Then
let the first black woman become president.
So you think not that he shouldn't run again, that he ought to step down right now?
Man, we have to start setting a standard for the president, don't we? You can't this is 2 presidents in a row that's just taking stuff home, man. Just taking
it home. Vice president. Not that it makes a difference.
It's
a little different.
2 terms in a row. 2 terms in a row. You had the president, and then you had Trump right after that, vice president, and then Trump right after that. I think we had to set some type of standard. He doesn't need to go to jail. I don't know if his son does yet. But that's a different story.
That's the whole thing. But that plays into, should he run again?
No, he shouldn't. No, he should not run again.
Okay.
When is his term up?
It's coming up. 2024, we'll get a new one. So here's the question, and I know you're not a Democratic strategist, but the problem is that Democrats are going to say who's going to run. It'll be a free-for-all. Of course, I'm sure the vice president will throw her name in.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty rough for her to win. That's why I say if he steps down, she can go ahead and, make history again. Because as far as running, I don't see it happening for her. Nope.
So then that's probably why, it's a good chance he may not step down, because the Democrats are going to be like, okay, who's going to run? Who can beat DeSantis? That's going to be the question. I don't think they're as worried about Donald Trump.
Now, I don't know anybody from the Democrats that's that popular.
Well, see, I'm just saying that's
But
probably
I don't pay attention like that.
I understand, but you don't pay attention to politics like that. But DeSantis, so that's
I know who he is because he's been around for a while, and he's done some pretty racist things.
But you're saying there's no Democrat that stepped up
that's made a real name.
Right.
Let me think.
There isn't.
AOC, is she popular enough?
Man, no, she's too extreme to the left. Well, she's a popular, but she's
like Bernie Sanders.
She's she might be further left than Bernie Sanders, but she is popular. But in terms of running for no, because all the moderates, Democratic moderates, Republican moderates, they're not going to vote for her. I don't think. I wouldn't think. When you're dealing with the extremes, it's going to be hard to get people who are in the center, whether they're left of center or right of center, to vote.
Well,
my prediction is Joe Biden is going to run again.
If Biden runs again, there's going to be people that aren't going to vote for him just because of what happened.
Yeah, I
there are going to be people who want to. I don't know. Is there independent running? I don't know.
I'm just saying it's going to be hard for somebody else to emerge if you don't think Vice President Harris, which I don't as well. It'll be tough for her. I'm not going to say she can win. It'll be a tough road.
We can go with Hillary.
Hillary, I doubt she's going to come back.
I don't know.
Because first of all, the fact that it'll be a white male running for the Republican ticket, it'll make it. That's been the standard for presidents. Like, oh, he's a white male. Okay.
Well, we can't just give it to.
I'm not saying give it, but
we can't just give it to DeSantis. Like he's going to be that person from the Republican. There may be somebody else that comes up.
Ted Cruz.
Well, I don't think him. But there may be someone else. Donald Trump hasn't. He hasn't ruled it out yet.
Yeah, I think it'll be rough for Donnie as well, because people see what happens under him. You go all the way.
I think if Donald Trump runs and DeSantis wins, I think that would be a good thing.
If Donald Trump lost, you're saying he lost.
But he has to get in, and he loses to DeSantis, because I think him losing, he would trash DeSantis so much
if he lost
that a lot of people wouldn't even go out and vote.
If he lost, there would be a lot of Republicans close to Donnie trying to beg him to be quiet.
But he wouldn't.
I know, because he's a child.
So that's what I'm saying. I think him losing would pretty much dismantle the Republican Party.
Or he doesn't even have to get in if he gets in and endorses somebody else and they lose.
Yeah.
If he loses because he has some kind of disorder, and I'm not a professional, he has a disorder, he wouldn't be able
narcissism.
He wouldn't be able to be quiet. That he would still have some serious problems. But President Joe Biden, he has some things to work out. His son has some things to work out.
Yeah, his son might be going to prison.
Yeah.
Well, he probably get out because of his father, but he should be going to prison.
So you think he's going to be charged and convicted?
He definitely needs to be charged.
Not going to prison.
He needs to get charged at least, and we need to see what's what. But it's looking pretty guilty-ish.
Yeah. So let me just give you some advice for people in public office. Don't take your work home with you. just leave it at the office.
Yeah.
Whether you are a county elected official, a city, state, don't take the stuff home with you. And definitely, if you're president, you can't take classified material home. But here's the thing, man, with Joe Biden. and maybe I'm opening up something. His attorney found it. So my question is, there must not be someone whose job it is, none department's job it is, to make sure that all the classified materials are where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, that's obvious.
Because that we're talking about what, 5-6 years after he took it home.
Or
What?
you know what or is, or they could have known it was there for all this time, and now all of a sudden the attorney wants to turn it in for some reason or another. Maybe because he's running for president, maybe because his son, and maybe because he didn't want his house raided.
So you think it's a matter of time before the Department of Justice said, "Hey, we have some papers that are still missing."
Yeah,
I wonder if it's Obama or Joe Biden.
Yeah, so Joe Biden, I think you need to step aside. I don't know if he can win the popular race. What is he, like 80?
He's, I think 80. Yeah. I think if he gets reelected, it'll be 82 or 83. So, I don't know, but we see Nancy Pelosi step down.
Yeah, which is a
Hakeem
good
Jeffries.
thing. Yeah.
To get a new perspective, a Gen Xer.
Get some new blood.
Has some influence. So that's good. But again, let me just say, don't take your work home with you. If you work for a bank, don't take your work home. If you're an elected official, don't take that stuff home. It's classified. So that's the news. We'll see what happens. It's still early on. So we'll see what happens with Joe Biden. But man, it's going to be rough. Democrats, when you find themselves in a situation like that, if you come out too strong against Joe Biden, then your party is beating you up saying don't do that. But then if you don't come out strong against him like you did with Trump, then the rest of the public is like, hey, why aren't you saying the same things?
Yeah. They're both, the Democrats and Republicans, it's a silly game. It is, if you think about it, it's a silly game. The whole political party thing, you have one group of people who's supposed to agree on everything 100% of the time.
Yeah, that's the part I don't get.
That's ridiculous.
Man, who agrees with anyone 100% of the time? No one. So anyway, here in the state of Missouri, this has made national news. So
Crazy.
I thought I'd share it. Here in the state of Missouri, Republican House member from Missouri State Rep. Ann Kelly introduced a bill in the Missouri House that will dictate, and it passed, that what women can and cannot wear while they're in the state capitol. So now their shoulders must be covered. This was voted on in Missouri. In Missouri, people.
Well, we shouldn't be surprised.
I know.
Not at our,
when I said in Missouri, that was a joke.
Yeah, okay.
In Missouri. But one Democrat, Peter Meredith, who said he didn't vote on it because he was like, as a man, I don't have a right to vote. How can I vote on what women can and can't wear? Because the debate, nothing came up about what men can and can't wear. What men are supposed to wear has already been said: shirt, tie, jacket. And so their dress code was left the same, but women have to
cover their shoulders. It's a woman that introduced it,
Yes.
so.
And I'm guessing. Let me just guess. She's a Republican.
Yeah, she is.
But I know. But I'm guessing. I'm trying to see what part of the state do you think she's from?
Oh, I would say some small rural town, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. She was. I saw her on the news when she was talking about it, and she's like, men are required to cover their shoulders. And I was just sitting there thinking, well, what dress style do men leave their shoulders out? There is no style for men like that. There is a style for women with their dress and, maybe even some sweaters or some whatever. But
Sweaters.
yeah, I don't know, man. But yeah, it's kind of crazy that a woman. You always have to have somebody like that. If it was a law passed where there was a dress code for black people, 99% chance it would be a black person that introduced it.
You think?
So they have a law suppressing women and women, and of course another woman introduced it. But I want to know how many women voted for it to pass. I mean, because I'm sure there are some Republican women who voted for that.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, for it to pass like that, they would have had to say, yes, I want a man to tell me how to dress. But
she represents
where does she represent?
Southwest part of Missouri.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Are we surprised? We are not surprised.
So for those who are not from Missouri, let's just explain that about Southwest Missouri.
Well, we can say it's close to Arkansas, so I mean that gives you some.
Well, but it's in Northwest Arkansas. Well, anyway, we won't get into that. But it is a very conservative part of Missouri.
Bible
In Southwest Missouri, that is where the world headquarters for the Assemblies of God is. Assemblies of God is largest Pentecostal denomination in the country, and it is a very conservative branch of Christianity. So it makes sense. Okay, she's from Southwest Missouri, so that shouldn't be a surprise to anyone.
I guess. Can we find out how many women voted for it, or is it?
I'm sure you can. I mean, it's public, so
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find
Because
out how many.
that's
Some women
crazy.
had to vote for it. Well, you just said if the Republicans are all behind it, then if you're a woman and you're a Republican in the Missouri House, then you're supposed to fall right in line. If you don't,
And I'm sure there were some Republican women who didn't agree with that, but they had to vote for it because, that's the silliness of a political party.
so just to show you how conservative Missouri is, so we have this dress code for women, but Missouri also, remember, it was the first state to ban abortions.
Yes.
So,
And it was also the last state to free the slaves. So,
Missouri.
yeah, that's where we live. We
So-
live there.
Yeah, so people think of Missouri, you might think of Kansas City, St. Louis. No, Once you get outside of
Yeah,
Kansas City, St.
that's
Louis,
pretty much
and a
it.
few other places,
Yeah, there's some
a few other places,
small
mid-state
places.
in Columbia and Jefferson City. But outside of that, man, you're in the Clampett territory.
Yeah.
The Clampetts.
Yeah, don't stop for gas.
A lot of sundown towns in Missouri. A lot of sundown towns. So that's where we live. We need a change. We need a new governor. We need everything new.
Yeah.
In Missouri. But wanted to share that. It's made national news just to see how outrageous that is. That some men, a bunch of men, because it's mostly men.
Yeah, of course.
Mostly men.
What color are they?
It's Missouri, so you know what color they are.
So they're mostly white. I
Mostly
would say.
white men dominate
Have said,
the Missouri State
women.
House and Senate.
we know what's best for you,
That's basically what they're saying.
and this is the dress code from here on out.
Maybe they're saying, oh, well, if their shoulders are out, I'm too tempted. So I might reach out and accidentally touch one.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know,
sure because that's what they used to do.
Used to.
Well, I mean, Me Too, they can't do it as much anymore. The Me Too movement.
Yeah, they're getting away. But again, it was introduced by a woman. Maybe she was jealous because she saw another woman's arms and she was like, man, how she had those guns?
Yeah.
I don't want that. Or maybe her husband. I'm just throwing out theories now, people.
We don't know.
Maybe her husband came to Jeff City and was like, hey, that woman has nice arms. And then Aunt Kelly got jealous, like, hey, I make sure that no arms are shown.
It could have been her pastor at her church. So he had some sermon
Sermon about
going
covering up.
on. Yeah, about women obeying the man, and
Could have been.
so she went to work and said, "Hey, we need to get in our proper place." I wonder what she's going to introduce next. I mean, now that the man can tell the woman what to do, I mean, I'm sure there's some more archaic laws that she can
Probably about
put
how
forth.
to wear your hair.
Yeah, that's obvious.
Hair and makeup that you can't wear.
No makeup.
No red lipstick.
Yeah, no red lipstick. No red dresses.
No red dresses. You can't wear red dresses.
No.
Craziness in Missouri. But as I said at the start of the show, this is the day after the Martin Luther King Jr. celebration across the United States. So we want to spend a little time talking about where we are with the dream. So Martin Luther King had this dream. It's called the beloved community. It's a beloved community. There's no hunger. There's no poverty. People of different races get along. It's sort of a utopian society. Now, Martin Luther King Jr. made the phrase popular, but the concept actually was created by theologian, philosopher Josiah Royce, the concept of beloved community. So where are we since the Martin Luther King celebration? I'll say...
Well, you mean since the Martin Luther King...
Since his assassination. Yeah, since the assassination. Where are we? I would say that we have made some strides, but we still have a long way to go. For those who are part of the struggle for liberation for black folk, the first obstacle was overcoming slavery. The second obstacle was overcoming legalized Jim Crow, legalized segregation. The third obstacle was political empowerment. And we've done that to a certain degree. The
political empowerment?
Yes, to a certain degree. The last and the most difficult obstacles that black people will have to overcome is economics. We won't have black equality in this country until we have economic power. Now, let me just throw out some things. So in 2019, according to the U.S. Department of Treasury, U.S. Treasury Department, in 2019, the median white family wealth was $184,000. That's the median white wealth. The median Hispanic wealth is $38,000. That was in 2019. And the median black wealth was $23,000. So we still see there is a huge wealth gap. And what I was reading something from the Brookings Institute. What we learn is the older folk are, so older whites, the gap with older blacks is even wider. In other words, the older you get, the wider the gap becomes. So while we have overcome,
that's disheartening since we were getting older.
I know that. Well, it doesn't mean that black folk have less. It just means that, well, it could.
Yeah, I mean, to our counterparts, they're
right.
going to be a lot better off than we are.
They just amass. The gap is larger the older you get.
Yeah, well, will have to wipe our own asses. They will have someone wipe their asses for them.
Yeah, I mean, even if I could afford that, that's not a service I would want.
Yeah. But if you're 90,
I understand.
80,
yeah,
can't do it.
Yeah, you're right. So, but that's what we have not overcome. What we have overcome, we've elected black mayors all over.
Governors.
Not a whole lot of governors.
Well, I mean,
yeah, but there have been some. So we have to celebrate that. And then, of course, a president. The Congressional Black Caucus is larger than it's ever been. So there have been some accomplishments, even outside of politics. A lot of things.
I mean, you can't forget. We had to say, there's a lot of negativity that comes with it, but the invention of hip hop has progressed black people in many ways. I mean, it's hurt in many ways. Can't lie about that. But as far as how it's helped the entrepreneurship of hip hop artists or people just in hip hop and the money that they've acquired and the people that they've hired over the years. So, and then you have a lot of young people who are now aspiring to be entrepreneurs, like, a lot of these hip hop artists. And
I think people like Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, some of those that didn't get to stick around to the 2020s would be surprised at what some of these hip hop artists have done. Not just hip hop artists, but even what these athletes have done to build brands and corporations. And then not just them, but people like Tyler Perry, who he didn't knock on Hollywood's door. Hollywood knocked on his door, begged him to be a part of their circle, but he kept it real. So I think those civil rights pioneers like Medgar Evers, Vernon Johns, and the list goes on and on, Fannie Lou Hamer, they would be extremely pleased at some of the wealth and success, but also helping others that a lot of these folk have been doing. So we have come a long way, but man,
We have a long way to go too.
that economic is going to be the hardest.
Yeah.
What also came out of the study is that the pandemic, so that was from 2019, but all the studies have shown is that the pandemic has widened the gap even more. So it's, I mean, until we can do something major in our community without having to go outside of the community, I mean, until then, we're not going to have complete freedom. Because right now, in most black communities in this country, in cities, there are probably a few exceptions, places like Atlanta, where if you were doing a major multi-million-dollar project, it couldn't be all black. You'd have to enlist the help of non-black folk. We just don't have that clout. And until then, is what I'm saying, until then, we're not going to be really free. That's the bottom line, period. Point blank in the discussion. So
there's a lot. Yeah, but before we get off Dr. King, I don't know if that was, were you about to get off of him?
I was about to go to the top 5, but go ahead.
Yeah, before we get off of Dr. King, there's one thing that kind of irritates me about the Dr. King celebrations.
Yeah, I have some irritation with it as well.
So when people talk about it, what do they talk about? I have a dream speech.
Right?
Nobody talks about what he said at the beginning of that speech.
Nope.
I mean, I think that the mainstream has even.
What did he talk about at the beginning?
He said we came there to get some to cash a check. You know what I mean? We came to cash a check.
Now people want to just quote, judged by the content of your character. Not, I mean, that's what's quoted.
And that's a great quote. But at the beginning, it was a fierce speech. It was not a happy la 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 speech.
He also talked about what people seem to forget. He talked about police brutality in that speech too.
He talked about a lot of stuff, and that's not. I mean, it seems like all we're talking about is the content of your character. I mean, and all that, and that's cool. But I think people have wrapped his message up into a slogan or something. You know, a couple of sentences. His whole life is pretty much a couple of sentences. The bus boycott, the March on Washington, and then he's assassinated. You know, but you know, a lot of people don't want to talk about, you know, Martin Luther King at the time, but right before his death, and Malcolm X right before the time of his death. You know, a lot of people don't want to talk about that. When they talk about those two people, they just want to talk about the middle part that everyone says. But and I quote Martin Luther King, not too long before he was assassinated, he said, "I fear I may have integrated my people into a burning house." That's what he said. Dang. That's what he said. Dang. About his life's work, about what he was doing, that he feared he may have integrated them into a burning house.
Well, no question, the house is burning.
Nobody wants to talk about that. Before all of this, and I was talking about this with the security guard where I work. There was a black bus company that was cleaning up when they did the bus boycott in 1955 in Alabama. There was a black bus company, and people don't talk about that, but there was a black bus company that was going, they were in southern states, but during that time they were cleaning up because they were doing all the business. Of course, they couldn't do all of it because they weren't as large as that bus company. So this bus company was growing. What's his name? Claude Anderson. His family owned part of this. They were part owners in this company. And so Claude Anderson is a famous economist. You should look him up if you've never heard of him. Probably one of the smartest people in America today. But his family owned a bus company, and while everyone stopped riding the buses in Alabama, they were riding Montgomery. They were riding this private black-owned bus company. But as soon as they said, okay, you can sit at the front of the bus, all the black people went back to these, back to the bus company, and slowly this black bus company went out of business. And that's pretty much how it was in America. Once we were integrated, all the black businesses closed.
Not all of them.
Okay.
But
you're right. Not all of them. A lot of the major ones, the Negro Leagues.
It did hurt. Integration did hurt.
It hurt a lot of black businesses.
No question.
I mean, we had to be self-sufficient, and because of integration, I mean, we lost some of our economic pull. We were able to get integration because of the economic pull that we had, because of all the boycotts and things like that. But we kind of lost that power.
Well, some people would say that happened here in Kansas City with 18th and Vine in the Power and Light District.
Yes.
That when 18th and Vine, for those who don't know Kansas City, 18th and Vine has a long history.
It's the reason why Kansas City is famous.
Right. Jazz musicians. It was the spot. So today there's a jazz museum and the Negro Leagues baseball museum and a few
black archives,
a few restaurants. But it was being built back up to where it was its heyday in the 1930s, 40s, probably 50s too. But then Kansas City decided to build a I don't know what you would call Power and Light, entertainment district.
Yes, entertainment
downtown.
District. Just like 18th and Vine is an entertainment district.
Right. It's not, which 18th and Vine, if you're not from Kansas City, is not far from downtown Kansas City. So
it actually considered downtown.
Right, yeah. So when they built up Power and Light, which, it's black business, you ain't gonna have too many. I mean,
there are no black businesses.
Yeah, it's white businesses. So when that happened, the growth at 18th and Vine stopped.
Yeah, there was a time 18th and Vine was supposed to get $27 million to keep on renovating, because you have to keep building this area up. But the Power and Light District, they don't even have to ask for millions. They're getting that automatically every year. So yeah, they're what 18th and Vine could have been.
Well, you remember for a while there was a black restaurant there.
Yes.
If you remember where it was.
Yes.
It was in the worst possible location. And
the worst possible location.
Probably the only bad location in the Power and Light District.
Yeah.
There's probably only one bad location, and that's where the black business was, and it went out of business.
Of course.
I
mean, they're still going in the black business.
Right.
The black
they had several
today.
locations, but downtown, they were supposed to clean up.
Supposed to.
But what King talked about, being integrated into a burning house, I think we can still see that going on in cities all over the country. We still see that today. But we wanted to end the show with the top 5 today to talk about what are the 5 or some of the biggest breakthroughs for African Americans since the assassination of Martin Luther King. And I said African Americans. I had a conversation with some saying, somebody said we shouldn't call ourselves African Americans because we are too detached from Africa. Most of us have never even been there. I've been there, but most of us, most black Americans have not been over to the continent. And the way people talk don't even understand it's not one country. It's like Africa.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that.
It's like that over in Africa.
I had somebody ask me, was Jamaica in Africa?
Come on, man.
I'm not, man. You think black people?
No, I believe it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're not telling the truth.
Yeah.
But they'd say, like, it's like that in Africa. When somebody says that, I'm like, you realize how many countries there are in Africa?
Yeah,
they're not. And they're not all alike.
No, they're not.
Liberia is nothing like Nigeria. I mean, they're not. Anyway, so they say we ought to call ourselves Black Americans because we're not really associated.
And they're right. I would agree.
We're not associated with Africa. So, top 5. And of course, we're going to miss some things. That's where you all come in to make sure you share. But I think you go first.
Yeah, I go first. So my top 5, the top 5 greatest achievements, accomplishments, events since the assassination of Dr. King. Number 5, I would have to put the Million Man March. I mean, because that was one of the greatest sights you could ever see. 1 million black men, or over 1 million black men in one spot. All those great speakers, no incidents, no violence. I mean, everybody was there just for, building and unity. So, I mean, that was one of the greatest things. Wow. No matter what anybody says, you can never take that away from Minister Farrakhan for him putting that thing together. So I would say that was one of the greatest events. Wish I could have been there. One of the greatest in my lifetime. So number 5, the Million Man March. Number 4, I would say the Black Lives Matter movement. When I say that, I don't mean the organization. Let's get it straight. I'm not talking about the Black Lives Matter organization. I'm talking about the movement. All of those marches and all of those protests in honor of Black Lives Matter. Yeah, white, Asian, people of all races, ethnicities, holding up Black Lives Matter. I think they said over 20 million people worldwide participated in some sort of march or demonstration for Black Lives Matter. So the Black Lives Matter movement is my number 4 most powerful event since Dr. King's assassination. So number 3, I would have to say the election of Vice President Kamala Harris. We have a black woman in the White House. There was a time in my lifetime where I thought there would be nothing like this. We would never see this in my lifetime. As far as back as the 90s, it was hard to see something like this happening. Yeah. But Kamala,
there were a lot of hip hop songs in the 90s, like we ain't gonna see no black president anytime
Tupac
soon.
had one of them. But so I mean, the election of Kamala Harris, along with the liar Joe Biden. I mean, the president Joe Biden. But I mean, that's just gonna inspire generations of black girls to achieve higher and higher heights. Number 2, I would say, is the election of President Barack Obama, the first black man elected to the highest office in the land.
That was a little bit of a big deal.
And that's going to inspire black men, black people, period, to get to inspire for them to get more out of life, to achieve higher heights, and just an inspiration for years and years. And everything he did, scandal free. I think the worst thing he did was wear a tan suit. He didn't take documents home. He didn't have an affair. Didn't have an affair. Didn't have any side kids. His son wasn't a criminal. I mean, just had a lot.
Because he doesn't have a son. But anyway,
I know. But
I know his child. He didn't have a child getting in trouble.
Just a great president. Still in the future, I mean, if you look at the past presidents, Donald Trump, you have Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, George Bush, the last presidents in the last 30 years, President Obama is the most, I would say, respected out of any of them. I mean, white or black people should aspire to conduct themselves with dignity like him.
You can't say he wasn't ethical.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't say that.
Yes, I mean,
whether you liked his policies or not.
Yeah,
he was an ethical president.
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that's the number 2 biggest deal. Some people would probably say that's number 1.
Yeah.
But my number 1, I would say, is the black billionaires. Since his assassination, just the rise of black billionaires. We have a bunch of black billionaires, and there are a bunch of people in the next few years who we're going to be hear about it that are going to become a billionaires. I'm sure the Williams sisters are on their way to becoming billionaires. Steph Curry, I'm sure he's going to get there
LeBron
soon.
Billionaire yet?
Who?
LeBron.
Yeah, I think he is. Right. But a lot of hip hop artists. I'm sure Nas, has a lot going on. He's working for it. Snoop, Ice Cube.
Kobe Bryant was going to be. He was not too far.
Yeah, he was already close. But I think Shaq is already there or close to it.
Well,
so
no, yeah, okay. Well, I think they're either there or close to it.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. There's going to be a lot of people. They took advantage of making a hit record or playing in the NBA with getting all that millions, and and invested it in, and now they've become moguls. Shaq, I don't know how many things he owns, but has his hands into, but yeah, that's number
list.
one, black billionaires. I think that's
a
the
good
most
list.
important thing and for the black race to move forward.
That's a good list. So number 5 on my list is the 1968 Civil Rights Act. He never saw that. It happened a few days after his assassination. And the 1968 Civil Rights Act expanded previous things. So it prohibited discrimination in housing, financing, all these things based on race and religion. It happened, I think it was signed on April 11th, 1968, and King was killed April 4th, 1968. So he definitely did not see that, but that is something that was huge that he did not get to see. Number 4, I would say, is simply the King celebration. I mean, if he were around today to see that people, white, black, Protestants, Catholic, Jews, Muslims, Buddhists, all gathering together on that celebration day to worship together, to pray together, all over. Now,
Even the people that hated him
yeah,
are doing it.
and it's just one day. It doesn't solve anything, but it's still a big deal because when he talks about the beloved community, and what you see in worship celebrations all over this country is the beloved community. People, I know in Kansas City, at one point we had the second largest King celebration next to Atlanta.
I think it was Reverend Fuzzy that got that going.
Reverend Fuzzy Nelson Thompson. So you had Native Americans involved. I mean, it was everybody. So it was a beautiful thing. So that's number 4. Number 3, I'm going to say Ketanji Jackson. I know Martin Luther King saw Thurgood Marshall on the Supreme Court, but to have a woman on the Supreme Court,
Black
I think.
person. We needed a black person. Thurgood Marshall passed. We didn't have any black people on the Supreme Court.
That is true. We haven't had anybody since Thurgood Marshall. So Justice Jackson stepped on the scene. Glad that she was elected. So that was a huge, huge thing. Number 4, I have similar to you. Number two, the black billionaires. Now, I think that would be a beautiful thing that King, Abernathy, and I keep going back to all those folks. And so you talked about what irritates you about the King celebration, and you brought a good point. What bothers me is, although King was a leader, man, there were so many others, and we can't forget them. We can't just say King. Can't, because there are too many black kids and white kids growing up, and all they hear is King. Like King was the only person. There were gobs.
Yeah, there were a lot of people. A lot of people. That's why during Black History Month, I don't think people should, King.
Yeah, you shouldn't talk about King.
Yeah.
You should talk about somebody else. But the black billionaires. Now, there are, this is according to Black Enterprise, there are 2,755 billionaires in the world. 15 of them are black.
In the world?
In the world, according to Black Enterprise.
I don't know about that.
Okay. I don't know. This is
You know what? When I went to Rwanda, I have a Black Enterprise from Rwanda. I still have it right over there. But yeah, I don't know. No, it's not a Black Enterprise. It's a Forbes from Rwanda. But I don't know. I believe there are a couple billionaires in Africa.
Yes. 9 of the billionaires are in the United States.
I think there's more than that, man.
Okay. I think this was 2020. So there may be more. But here's the point.
Yeah, I get
the point is that there are 735 billionaires in the United States. So according to Black Enterprise, the U.S. has the most billionaires. And that's according to Forbes as well. So if you look at the black billionaires in this country, they only represent 1.3% of U.S. billionaires. Only 1.3%. Now, you might be right. There may be more, because this was maybe 2 years ago. So there may be more. But the point is still going to be the same, and that is black folk represent 13% of the population, yet not even 2% of billionaires.
Right.
That goes back to the whole thing that economics, until we have the money power, the resource power.
But yeah, the
complete
reason
freedom.
it's going to be hard for us to get to that 13% for the simple fact that a lot of these industries, when they were established, we were slaves. You know, like the shipping industry, we're never going to be in the shipping industry ever. There's no way we're going to
catch up. Yeah. Technology
catch up. You can't even catch up.
I know. That's what I'm saying. We'll never catch up. I agree. Well, I won't say never. It would take hundreds of years.
The steel industry. I mean, there's so many industries. The aviation. I mean, there's so many industries that it was established. Well, not the air, but I mean, when it was established, we were slaves.
Yes. But then you also
banking.
Have some. Yeah. I mean, we're way far. Because at one point, all of the black banks in this country had total assets of $4 billion. Yeah. That's all the black banks combined.
I mean, but the people had to understand that there were more black banks in the 50s than there were right now.
But you know, a lot of them, they get bought out.
Integration.
And several other things. Yeah. I mean, so King was right. But until we have that economic power, it's going to be tough. The gap is going to be wide. So my number one is the election of Barack Obama. I mean, that was a huge event. I don't think it's hard to imagine. I mean, yeah, the Million Man March was good, and that's probably, I'd have an honorable mention. I was there, fortunate enough to be at the Million Man March. But I have the election of Barack Obama as number one. Also, I think on honorable mention, and I know a lot of people probably disagree with these lists altogether. It's too hard because we have had some accomplishments.
Yeah, we've had a lot.
So put in the comment section what you think, what we left off of the list. I would also say just the rise of the Congressional Black Caucus. King didn't get to see because he was around, but there may be one or two. I mean, it was established in what?
70s,
early 70s.
Yeah, so they're about to make a movie about Shirley Chisholm. Regina King is playing her. So
she's a good person to do it.
Yeah,
too.
she deserves a movie. Well, a movie well deserves Shirley Chisholm.
Absolutely. One of the unsung heroes of American history.
Yeah,
a true revolutionary. But that's the list we have. Let us know what you think. Put some landmark things that happened since King's assassination that we didn't put. Check us out every Tuesday. We drop a new episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chopping It Up with the Cleavers. Check us out most places you get your podcast.
Peace.
Revolution.
Mama to mama.